let's just go to the person who's going to take over. Hierro is taking over, Richard. He was a huge player, a Real Madrid player, very respected in Spain, very experienced with the national team, and he's been, I think, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, he's been around with Zinedine Zidane during his period. I think I've seen him several times hanging around the bench there. So he is a man who ought to be respected.
Yeah, all the papers were running with the headline "Hand of Iron." His name Hierro is Spanish for iron.
Yeah,
he's a huge figure in the history of Spanish football. 89 caps. Ireland fans will remember him from the 2002 World Cup. He played that in that knockout game. He's amazingly, he's the fifth highest goal scorer for Spain, even though he's a defender. Teak tough. He would have huge respect amongst the players. Ramos in the press conference yesterday said, who better to replace Julian than Fernando? So he'd have great respect amongst the players. He didn't want the job, or this is what he said earlier in the week. He never aspired to be coach of the national team, but he doesn't have experience much as a coach. Just one season and as coach of Real Oviedo in the second division. But he said, he's not going to change much. That was the attitude of the president as well, that they wouldn't tinker much, just do an internal appointment. So you mentioned that there are very senior players in that camp, Ramos in particular, the captain. He was joking about it yesterday in the press conference. He said the place looked like a funeral parlour. Come on, guys, the World Cup is starting tomorrow, and everybody was laughing. So he'll rally the players. The players also would have experience of bad blood in the camp. The team is made up predominantly of Real Madrid and Barca players, and there was very bitter blood between the two sides during the years of 2011, 2012, during Mourinho's years as manager of Real Madrid, when he wanted his players not to talk to the Barca players. There had to be negotiations behind the scenes between Casillas and Xavi Hernandez to patch things up. But during those years, that was the glory years of Spain's national football team. Yeah. So they patched it together and moved on. Just
to illustrate, and you're in Barcelona, you're talking to us from Barcelona, Richard, how fragile that sort of alliance between the Barca players and the Real Madrid players is. I understand that in Barcelona, for example, they are not angry so much as laughing at the fact that the president of Real Madrid has done this to the association, and of course it is a fragile alliance, so that's a threat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny you touch on that. There was a great cover story and headline in yesterday's Diario Sport. That's one of the Barcelona-based sports papers. It was Ole Rubiales. They were just reveling in this mess. That's
right. Rubiales being, again, I should remind our listeners, the president of the association, who was trigger happy enough to fire his manager after the announcement, and caused, I suppose, Perez, the president, and Rubiales, they are the guys, the suits, if you like, who've caused the crisis.